When I was coming home from my mission, I asked my dad, who was my stake president, for a possible topic for my missionary homecoming talk. I said to him, you know the Valencia First Ward better than I do. It's been 2 years for me, but you're over it as the stake president. And I don't know what to talk about. This isn't about me. I'm a missionary. Well, I was until you released me, stake president dad. But till that point, I was teaching other people. And I don't want to come home and just give some travel log about, hey, look at all the things I did in Puerto Rico. No, teacher's going to teach. Missionary is going to mission. I just need to know a topic. Dad, what do the people of the Valencia First Ward need? And I'll bet that no matter what their need is, I will have had experiences in the mission field that will allow me to teach them according to the truth that they need. So what is it? Now, my parents had been able to come to Puerto Rico to pick me up. The bishop of our ward was a consecrated saint himself and said, take my frequent flyer miles and go pick up your son. I don't know if he'll come home without you dragging him. Well, they said it was a week of meeting people. The time that they spent in Puerto Rico with me, I worked them to the bone. I told my dad, don't release me till the second to last day. I want one day at the beach. I was human after all. But until then, we're going to work. We're going to go to all my old areas. We're going to meet with converts, inactives, members. We're going to teach. My parents are like, we don't speak Spanish. I'm like, está bien. I'll translate for you. My mom joked later and said, that was a horrible vacation. I'm like, yeah, but it was a great mission, wasn't it? She's like, yeah, it was. It was awesome. Well, my dad said, meeting so many of the Puerto Rican saints, especially those who had joined the church, I was blown away by their level of sacrifice. The gospel meant everything to them because they had given up everything to receive it. And I worry, as stake president, that some of our members perhaps are not seeing the value of the gospel. Perhaps they take it for granted because they've had it for so long. And they don't live the same degree of sacrifice that I saw among those Puerto Rican saints. And I thought, sacrifice. I can talk about that. Well, so can the Lord. If you look at section 97, look at verse 8 and 9. We're just going to focus on these two verses for this principle. The Lord says, verily I say unto you, all among them who know their hearts are honest. So you're doing well. You're honest and you know you are. Okay? There's no hypocrisy here. You know your hearts are honest and are broken and their spirits contrite. These people, these saints sound amazing. They sound saintly, right? Broken hearts and contrite spirits. They're giving God exactly what he's asking for. But then this all-important phrase, and are willing to observe their covenants by sacrifice. Yea, every sacrifice which I, the Lord, shall command, they are accepted of me. For I, the Lord, will cause them to bring forth as a very fruitful tree which is planted in a goodly land, by a pure stream, that yieldeth much precious fruit. And it's that fruitfulness that the Lord is asking for. It's fruitfulness that he's offering. He is the tree. He is the fruit. He's the living water. He's the whole thing. But if we can come unto him at personal sacrifice, if we can offer him what he's asking for, yes, broken heart and contrite spirit, you're there. You're doing that. You're keeping covenants, but are you willing to observe those covenants at a deeper level, at greater personal sacrifice? Are you willing to obey in a way that comes with a cost? You understand? In the midst of all this talk about building a temple, could that be one of the reasons that they're dragging their feet? That they're still in darkness, though noonday awaits? Temple construction is going to be expensive, especially in the 1830s. A bunch of suffering saints that are struggling to make ends meet, and now they're being asked to go above and beyond. Yes, you are. You've made a covenant to consecrate. That's everything. Talk about obeying at a cost. But if we can wrap our heads and hearts around the principle of sacrifice, I'll put it this way. Joseph Smith once said, this is in the Lectures on Faith, And sacrifice and faith need to go together. When Joseph said there's three things that need to exist for us to have real saving faith. Number one, we got to know that God exists. Number two, we got to know what God is like. But number three, we got to know that we're living in such a way that we can call down the blessings of heaven. We're doing our part, having already come to know God, that he'll do his. And of all the ways we could know that we're doing well. And remember here, the Lord says, you know your hearts are honest. You know they're broken. You know your hearts are contrite. You know you're doing great. But you really want to know? You want to put your money where your mouth is? You want proof of the level of commitment you have? Then observe your covenants by sacrifice. That's what Joseph teaches in Lectures on Faith. The way to know you are living by faith is the fact you're living by sacrifice. Because otherwise, why would I sacrifice this? Why would I give this up when there is no hope for a reward from a return on my investment? Not that that's what we're doing it for, but if I know God, then of course I'm willing to sacrifice. And if I'm not willing to sacrifice, is it because I don't really know God? I don't really trust his blessings? That is lack of faith on my part. And so to sum it all up, as Joseph teaches, that the way to know that you are exercising faith is because you are sacrificing for that faith. Or one of my favorite statements about sacrifice and faith from the Lectures on Faith, a religion that does not require the sacrifice of all things never has power sufficient to produce the faith necessary unto life and salvation. That's a sentence worth memorizing. Religions that don't require sacrifice are religions that don't produce faith. And I, for one, will forever be grateful for a religion that asks much of me because it's producing faith in me. And that's what God is looking for. There have been times I have seen people serve in their callings in a way that I know they're observing their covenants by sacrifice. The first bishopric I was ever in as a newlywed, surrounded by fellow college students, newlyweds, I was counting tithing and fast offerings, and there would be times I would look and see the level of generosity among my fellow starving college students and think, wow, there's a couple that is observing their covenants by sacrifice. I've seen people accept callings that they wouldn't have asked for themselves, accept mission calls in places like senior missionaries going on missions that, this is not what I was hoping for. But they are observing their covenants by sacrifice. I think, again, don't run faster than you have strength, but break a sweat. Give. C.S. Lewis taught this. May your donations be just generous enough that there's certain things you can no longer afford for yourself. There's observing covenant by sacrifice. So much of what the Lord is asking for is a way for him to give us all he has. He's asking that we give him all we have along the way. That is consecration. That is obedience. That is sacrifice. And it's sacrifice the Lord is asking for.